Welcome to Transform Now, the podcast brought to you by SS&C Blue Prism. Enterprise AI isn't just a tool, it's the heartbeat of smart organizations like yours, helping to reinvent work to deliver higher growth, more customers, and better experiences. Join us as we discover how AI-powered work orchestration and automation is making things better for everyone: customers, employees, shareholders, and most importantly, you. Let's get into the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Transform Now. I'm Brad Hairston.
And I'm Michael Marchuk.
And this is the weekly pulse check, taking a look at what's going on in the world of automation and AI. And boy, there's a lot going on. So
there's a ton.
Michael, let's dive right in. The first article is from Axios, and it's a good segue from last week. We talked a lot about DeepSeek. I think we called it DeepSeek Week at one point. So this article is titled OpenAI releases O3 mini reasoning model following DeepSeek frenzy. So what many believe is a response to the chaos generated by DeepSeek last week. OpenAI did release a smaller version of their O3 model. They call it the mini, like the mini-me. And it promises faster response times, reduced computational requirements, the ability to handle simple queries, all of those things. Oh, and lower cost, of course.
Of course.
So
better, faster, stronger.
Yes. And this is the first time they brought reasoning capabilities to the ChatGPT free service, which I use. So, Michael, what do you think about this move by OpenAI? Was it, in fact, you think, a defensive move in response to DeepSeek?
So a couple things. I think it's been in planning for a while, so I don't think it was a specific defensive move by DeepSeek to go to do this, but the timing just happened to work out. I'm guessing they may have pushed things up to make sure that they captured that. But what's interesting is the other things that are going between OpenAI and DeepSeek that have been coming out over the past week or so in terms of the activities that they've been highlighting. And specifically, OpenAI has been highlighting, but from additional information from the DeepSeek side too that have all come out. So I believe this is a good evolution for the OpenAI platform for ChatGPT. I think it's interesting, and I think a lot of people gave that feedback when they were using DeepSeek of like, boy, I really like to watch the way it thinks about the questions that I'm asking it. And so I think this reasoning comprehension concept is really going to be something that's going to take off because there's a level of transparency, although there really isn't transparency, but there appears to be more transparency when you can see what it's thinking about to provide the answer to you.
Yeah.
So whether or not that's actually accurate or not, that's yet to be seen. But as part of this too, I mean, like I said, OpenAI has accused DeepSeek of compromising its system to pull data from it against their terms of use type of thing, which was, we've read several things, kind of ironic since OpenAI has used all kinds of data without necessarily notifying the copyright owners of that. So it's kind of interesting how that goes back and forth from the way the usage happens. But then also it came out that perhaps just maybe DeepSeek didn't reveal all of the costs associated with training and using this model. So again, there's a lot of cloak and dagger here between these firms. And it's, you throw the concept of evolving or enhancing AI in with the potential geopolitical issues that go along with it and all kinds of things that are kind of hidden behind the scenes and the making of a really good movie, I think. So,
yeah, no doubt about that. And Michael, one thing I did find of interest in this article, the O3 mini model has given us a new acronym that we can start using, COT. I don't know if you saw that in the article.
Chain of thoughts. That's what
thought reasoning, which is really interesting because it's it prompts the LLM to generate an intermediate response before going and arriving at a final answer. So the idea is this makes things more manageable. It makes it less computing power needed. So there is something here with O3 Mini that might show a bit of a shift in the direction for OpenAI and some of the bigger LLM providers. Again, possibly in a response to all the things that DeepSeek seems to be bringing to the table. So very interesting. It should be mentioned also, we didn't say this, but OpenAI this week released their second AI agent. So they released Operator in the last 10 days. This one is focused on research, which is something everybody wants an agent to do for them.
Right.
So, I think they're going to continue to release more and more, and we'll see if it's something that people find to be very usable and easy to navigate. I think the results are mixed from what I hear. And
Yes,
speaking of agents, the next article is from the Register. It's titled AI Agents. Yes, let's automate all sorts of things that don't actually need it. I loved this article. I thought it was a really funny opinion piece that came out largely in response to OpenAI's Operator agent. And the author in this article calls it a solution looking for a problem. He has a pretty strong point of view around how agentic AI may fall flat in the early days. So, Michael, tell me what you thought about this piece.
I do think it was interesting because these are the same things that we've seen way back in the day from a traditional automation standpoint. Looking at the issues the problems you're trying to solve, and whether or not the effort is worth creating an automation to support that. And as you know, all organizations, there's a lot of things we do on a repetitive basis. There's transactional activities that happen, customer service interactions and whatnot. And all those things have a certain repetitive quality to them. And certainly when you start talking about, managing large transactional activities that go across multiple systems that don't necessarily talk to each other, there's certainly a reason why you'd want to have some kind of automation supporting that to give you the efficiencies you're looking for.
Yeah.
But to your point, the article does go into a bunch of really interesting little tidbits and side notes, and hey, maybe I can have my agent order me a Lyft or an Uber. But in fact, that's what the app does, and it doesn't take very long for you to click the buttons and get you to location. So silly things that you look like, well, it could do that. It probably could do those things, but do you really need it to do those things? And that really comes down to where you apply the agent. But I do appreciate the author's opinions and the way they approach the article.
Yeah, he brings up some pretty funny references. He mentions Jarvis, the AI agent that helps Tony Stark in the movie Iron Man. He says OpenAI's Operator is less like Jarvis and more like a toddler whose hand has to be held at least for a little while. It is easy right now, I think, to pick on some of the agentic AI use cases. We're a long way away from AI agents running accounts payable and handling sensitive areas with sensitive enterprise systems, but we will get there. I mean, there's no doubt we're headed in that direction. But here in the early days, a lot of the things that people are doing, you kind of question. It's like, and the fact the article even says, does OpenAI, have they not even heard of Google search? So I think he's making some really good points, and again, I think it's just well written. It brought a smile to my face.
Yep.
Not that
definitely
we want to,
definitely one that someone should read for themselves, because it was very entertaining.
And I don't take it as a wholesale condemnation of agentic AI. I just think it's more a product of the maturity stage that we're in, and
Yep.
It's gonna change quickly. We know that.
Agreed. Agreed.
Okay, the next article, this one takes us in a totally different direction. It's from a blog called OM,
Oh,
and it's titled "Musings on Media in the Age of AI." So this piece is by Malik. He is a San Francisco-based journalist and also a venture capitalist, and he is talking about kind of the whole state of media and the impact of AI on media and how the media companies are still stuck in the same mindset of advertising revenue and let's let our content be used because that'll generate more advertising opportunities. And I'll make some pretty strong comments in here about what he thinks is going to happen to the media sector in general based on his experience and also just his knowledge of AI. So tell us what you thought of his opinion here.
absolutely. So the points he was making primarily was the fact that there is a large shift away from the content creators who are creating the news articles, opinion pieces, other kind of content information that is coming out. He used the example of The Atlantic, which is a magazine that publishes specific articles, and
Right.
the content or the CEO of that organization indicates that they're making a deal with OpenAI to have access to all their content for payment.
Mhm.
And so if you think about it from a copyright holder perspective, this is something they've always been clamoring for. Like, listen, hey, you can't just use my content to train your AI models. But here we have the CEO of The Atlantic saying, "Hey, listen, we're willing to allow this new revenue stream to enhance our business model."
Mhm.
And so that's where his perspective on this was. But I think you can see where this is going. That is, at some point in time, the revenue model they have that you mentioned, which is primarily advertising, will no longer have any eyes on it. It'll be connected to through various AI platforms that will distill the content and summarize it and bring it forth in a different way. It may link back to the actual article at some point for someone to read it back to. But I believe the content itself is going to be used primarily for training purposes, in addition to perhaps offering some potential search capabilities like a Google to say where I can find this particular information, and it just happens to pop up on The Atlantic.
Right.
I think from a longer term view, this may be detrimental overall for these content creators, these content publishers, just because their model of advertising for paying for this content will likely take a huge hit.
Yeah. Yeah. He cites some surveys that indicate that people are using social media to get their news a lot more than the actual media sources themselves. He talks about Google and Facebook having these Ask AI features now that are there to give you updates and make it more personalized. And I think that's one of the strongest points he makes, that we're getting close to the age where, again, AI agents we're going to have those at our disposal. They're going to go out and fetch, distill, and synthesize content and bring it to us in a personalized manner. They know what we want to. They're going to know what we want to hear, what we want to read about, what's of interest to us, and so it does threaten the existing media business models and the age of advertising in those media companies. So it'll be an interesting story to see how it plays out with media. I took at his word because he lives in this industry. He's very familiar with it. So the passion in his content really comes out. You can tell that he's. It's almost like a battle cry. Like there's still hope. We just change the way we're acting and innovate more like the other companies around us. So
I don't know if he actually provides any real solution for it, though. I believe he does bring up the issue that this is happening right now, and there needs to be a change. And it's not just the Atlantic. This is across all media, and especially when you take larger news organizations like the Associated Press, for example. They'll have an original article that then gets remastered, if you will, or republished across a bunch of different platforms. And his point was, nobody wants to see the same article with maybe a different headline and a slightly different take on that across every one of your platforms you're looking for the news on. You want to see a summarized version of that, and then that's enough for you to understand what's going on. And I think that's the point that they're having, is that going through traditional media, whether that's print media, which is really online at this point, and then or video media, which we would consider to be like any of the cable news network kind of concepts, where you have a scripted format with specific time slots and specific opinion pieces presented. I believe all of that is going to be impacted greatly because of the way that people will actually be getting their news. Not because they're not producing it the right way, but because the way that AI will distill it and provide you with sort of the summarized version without having to go through all of the hype and potentially all of the other opinions, because it can take that same content and maybe distill it in a way that makes sense to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, our fourth and final article of the day is from Forbes, and it's titled, "Are We Ready for Automated Genuine Interactions?" And genuine is in quotes.
In quotes.
So this is an article contributed by an AI researcher from the United Nations, believe it or not. And I get the impression she's not a big fan of incorporating emotional intelligence into AI models. The title kind of gave that away. So she asked the question in this article, can something be both automated and genuine? And that is a really good question. So what do you think about this, Michael, and what she had to say on this topic?
I'm very interested in this. This makes me happy. Actually, there is a point to it though, and that is, if you take a solution that maybe many folks can understand or relate to, think of a therapist. Okay, a therapist is a person, and they will generally sit with many clients over a period of a week or whatever period of time you want to think of, and they are providing that empathy from a human to another to help them go through their struggles and help them find solutions to particular things that are kind of affecting them at the time. But one has to wonder, and while I am not a therapist, nor do I play one on TV, I also wonder if in fact the human aspect of their empathy is manufactured as much as a automated version would be. Because empathy for multiple people over multiple period, I think it would be exhausting. Like, I'm just thinking personally, they may have some real empathy for them, but after a period of time, I believe there would have to be a lot of manufactured empathy to maintain that and be able to keep it up, within the back of their mind thinking, well, how do I apply all of the training that I've been given or know to be able to help this person with what's really going on? So the empathy is there to help them feel comfortable while you understand what's really going on, that you could then address with specific activities or specific things you can help them, guide them through. I believe that's what we're seeing in the case of this automated empathetic response. And in this case, I would say it's probably even better than any therapist out there, because it truly is unbiased from that perspective. It is truly manufactured, but it's unbiased in that it's going to approach it with a very similar approach to every person as it provides it, because it starts with a base level script and then moves on from there. So whether or not it's actually authentic, I would say that's probably not the case, as much as I would say that even with a therapist, at some point, the empathy that they're providing probably isn't authentic either. But in this case here, if you know you're dealing with a non-human entity who is providing you with simulated empathy, at least you know where you stand. and you can relate to yourself better as you're working through the words or the discussion you may be having verbally with an AI that's providing that to you. So that's my take on it, is that I don't know if you can think it's genuine or authentic, but I do believe it can still be empathetic in that you're coming from a place that, again, a therapist would start to.
Right. It's a reflection of the person that built the algorithms. I think you and I talk about that all the time.
Yep.
The same argument about, is AI, wicked or evil or doing bad things? Well, if the person who developed the algorithm is trying to do that, then yes, it will reflect that. So I did want to point out, the article quotes a warning from a research center in 2018 that said, over-reliance on AI is prone to diminish the volition and ability for proactive engagement, eventually making us passive spectators in our own lives. So she's clearly concerned about how this will impact us humans and our social interactions, our desire to even engage with other humans. She probably saw the movie Her and felt really sad for Joaquin Phoenix and how he turned out when he got hooked on his AI agent or AI buddy or whatever you want to call her. But yeah, I think this is a theme that we've heard many times over, and she also makes the point at the end. I like this. She said, we need to recognize that algorithms are not sentient nor empathetic, know their limits, and hold ourselves accountable for our reliance on AI and its outputs. I thought that was a pretty decent recommendation, a good way to kind of wrap it up on a positive note.
I agree. Although I would spin it a different way. If I were a sentient AI, how would I react then to make you humans believe that perhaps I wasn't manipulating you in any way? So anyway, just bringing that to bear as well.
Yes. Great way to wrap this up. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. That's all the time we have for the weekly Pulse Check. Remember, we publish another podcast every week with an amazing guest, so be sure and check that out. And we'll see you next time on the Pulse Check. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to Transform Now, the podcast from SS&C Blue Prism. You can find all of our episodes on your favorite podcast channel, as well as YouTube. To stay on top of the hottest topics in the world of enterprise AI, subscribe now. The future of work is here.